Call the Truth and Taxation meeting to order. It's a hearing, and we will stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of the United States of America, to the republic,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Nissen is connecting by Zoom tonight. So at this point, I would ask Mr. Kleindl to begin his presentation and information as part of the hearing.
Mr. Chair, commissioners, members of the public that are watching on TV and those that are in the audience tonight. Tonight's meeting is the Truth and Taxation meeting. What this is a meeting to discuss the proposed 2021 budget. So this will give an opportunity for the taxpayers to voice their concerns over the proposed budget. It is not a forum for taxpayers to appeal their market value or their individual proposed property tax amounts. That's at the Board of Equalization. We do have individuals here from the assessor's office that are taking appointments, so you can make appointments to do that. So tonight's agenda, I'll explain what the budget process setting was. We started in May of this year. We went through and we set the salary and benefits entered into the budget so that the department heads and stuff it'd be consistent across the board. The budget packets then went out to all the departments and quasi-tax supported agencies. They were to be returned to me and completed by June 22nd. From June 26th to July 11th, the department has reviewed their budget with me. We start making initial adjustments to those budgets. On the week of July 20th, I met with the board chair and the vice chair to review the preliminary budget that we would be bringing to the county board work session. The week of August 10th, we had a county board work session at which time we had selected department heads that would come and highlight their departments. It was an opportunity for commissioners to get in details with those department heads to get information from their budget process. Then at that time, the county board then also instructed me a central guidelines of where they would like me to present the budget. Then on September 2nd, I took the initial budget to the county board. And at that time, the county board certified the initial budget, which means at that time, the budget could not go up, but it could go down. Tonight is our Truth and Taxation meeting. As I stated, it's an opportunity for the public to talk about their feelings about the budget. And if that, after this hearing, the board may choose to either send it back to the table, or they can accept the budget. If they send it back to the table, then I would have to bring it to the next board meeting on December 15th. The budget must be certified by the county by December 30th. So that was that's the timeline and the process. So as we started going through the budget process, one of the things the concern was is trying to keep the budget relatively flat. One of the things that I have talked to you as commissioners over the past 14 years is that we try to do a multi-year budget, and so we don't have big increases or decreases, and it affects people's livelihood and budgets. We try to plan years ahead about projects that may come up, and so just like you would at your home, when you know your washer, dryer, or stove is getting bad, you start saving up for it, so when that event happens, you can afford it. Of course, sometimes you save up for things, or you think you got it saved up, and the thing conks a little sooner, and so that's what you have to have your reserves for to do that. The 2021 budget is a balanced budget, which means that the revenues and the expenditures equal the same. To keep the budget down, the levy low, what was proposed and what we have in our initial budget is a plan to take $1,667,100 out of reserves. Every few years, we open up a new landfill cell. That landfill cell in '21 and going into '22 is approximately $2,190,000. And so instead of having that just go directly onto your increase in your property tax and levy, we are going to use our reserves to buy that down, to keep it down. If we didn't do that, the levy this year would have came in at over 5%. And so we are, by taking out of reserves, that at 1.6 million, we're dropping from the levy 4.5%. That's an important factor. The proposed budget increase of the net levy is $400,000. Health insurance in 2021 is 9%. We as an employer take the first 5%, the employee takes the next 4%. Wages in a lot of the departments were offset by retirements, but the balance that we have over several years, we often can reduce our budget line item with the salaries when people leave, but we do it if people retire. There is a severance package that does have some ramifications on the budget. As you'll notice in the budget, or have noticed in the budget, our capital equipment is the same as last year. Again, with our long-term planning, we're trying to anticipate capital equipment expenses. I have the major departments send a 5-year plan of what the capital expenditures are. So Public Works, the Sheriff's Department, landfill, emergency services, every year they'll submit a 5-year plan so we can start anticipating what those expenditures will be. The building fund remains the same as it has been the past years. As you know, about 5 years ago, we did a capital improvement planning, and we put together a plan so we know exactly what expenditures were going to come with building repairs and building maintenances, and that has been a tremendous success. One example is this here building roof this year for the Health and Human Services. We replaced this roof this year, but what we did is we had planned for it over the last 6 years and had saved up for it. When it was time to come to replace this roof, we had the reserves to do that. So where does your county tax dollars go? When you get your tax statement, you see several different areas. You'll see a line item from the county. You'll see a line item from either your township or a city, your school district, might be some other general tax areas such as EDC, HRA, Mid-Minnesota, a watershed, or a TIF district. Last year, the breakdown for tax dollars was this: 49% of your tax statement was from the county. Approximately 21.9% was from school districts. 19.1% was from cities, and about 7% was from the state general tax. Other taxing districts was 3%. As Mr. Thompson would tell you, that you can't use one brush to paint the entire county because it depends on where you live. So some school districts had an increase or might have a higher tax increment price than another school district, or your township may have a higher fee than not. So those are the general parameters that were put out there. Any questions so far about any information I've talked about?
Not proceed, Larry.
All right, if you take your budget handout that looks like this, you'll see how our budget is broken down. We have family service. We start out with revenues. The revenues, and what we do is you take your revenues, subtract it from your expenditures, and the difference between your revenues and your expenditures is that's what your levy need is. For family services, revenues was projected to be $11,224,400. Road and bridge, $14,246,500. The general fund, $9,441,400. The solid waste and score fund is $4,325,600. As I stated, we're proposing to take $1,671,100 out of the landfill reserve. This CBH projected revenue is $240,700. The state of Minnesota rents that building from us. As you know, with the agreement we have, we don't ever make money, nor do we ever lose money. It's cost neutral. It's whatever the cost is to run that facility. And then I'll come back to the tax levy and explain that after I get done with the expenditures. So if you drop down to the expenditures for family services, the expenditures is $19,760,300. Road and bridge, $18,901,300. The general fund is $29,706,500. The solid waste and score fund, the expenditures is $5,796,700. The Pioneer Library, and this is the entire library system, is $389,390. The operating expense, and that's just our cost to maintain that facility, that's our maintenance guys, our cost for utilities, is $78,500. The county building fund, as I talked about earlier, is $497,500. The law enforcement building bond is, and this is the last year of this bond, and so this will be the final payment we make on that facility, and that is $1,369,500. The emergency preparedness operation is $340,500. Capital equipment, as I stated, is the same as last year, $1,086,000. The health and human service building operation cost of this building is $156,500. That decreased as we had a director retire and we did not replace that director position. And this community transit, or it used to be known as CAT, is reduced by $3,000 to $17,500, and then the 16-bed. So what you do is you take your revenues, you minus your expenditures, and you come up with the levy. The proposed levy is $37,191,100. You go to page 2, if you turn the page, please. You'll see the gross levy, and that's the number I just gave you, the $37,191,100. And then the state of Minnesota provides what's called county program aid. County program aid is a payment to counties and local units of government for an agreement of services that we provide on behalf of the state and the federal government that they used to have to cover. And what they do now, they use a proportion of our per capita, the needs assessment that we have in the county, and they then provide that aid to us. This year, that aid for 21 will be $2,377,886. The public and the legislators need to know that Kandiyohi County uses those county program aids as a dollar-for-dollar match as a property tax relief. We're very proud of that fact that we use those dollars and pass that directly on to as a property tax relief. And so the next part of that is your tax capacity rates proposed. What Mark does, Mark has a formula that he goes through, taking the cost of what the valuations of the county is, what the expenditures of the county, and there's a formula that he works, and that's proposed in 21 is 58.72, which is almost identical to what this year is. Then you can kind of see the past tax levy information. If you go back even further, if you go back to 1999, this is the lowest proposed levy we've had since 1999. And then you can see the past several years for county program aid. You can see that we are starting to get readjusted up to that level. If you go back to the 2000s, our program aid was even higher than what we have now. Mr. Chair, is there any questions?
Any questions for Larry at this point? Then proceed.
Okay, if you go to page 3, you'll see the net comparison of budget revenue and expenditures. When we set the budget, as I stated earlier, you have the revenues and expenditures, and you can, if you look at the increases and decreases, you can see that it's a pretty flat line budget. The differences, if you see in community corrections and community health, is either due to the loss of end of a grant, or was adjustment because the recycling program has ended, and the employees that were paid under the recycling program now comes back to the county program aid, or it comes back to community service, and they have to cover it under their levy. Most of our increase in the budgets has to do with the salaries and the benefits of our employees, which is one of our greatest assets. And so you go to page 4, this continues on, and just so you can kind of have a visual where we're at. Mr. Chair, if there's any other questions, I'll stop and I'll take questions from the public.
Okay, any question from the board at this point? Okay, as part of the hearing, the hearing is open. Did anybody within the audience wish to make any comments or questions? And if so, please present yourself to the microphone, identify yourself with your name and address, please.
Nobody?
Any questions? Okay, if not, hearing no, I would ask for a motion to close the hearing before we call on for board questions. Close the hearing.
Mr. Chair.
Imdak moves, is there a second?
I'll second.
Berg seconds. Discussion on motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same
Aye.
sign. Motion is hereby carried, the hearing is closed. Now open up for any questions for Mr. Kleindl or department heads from the board? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to accept the budget as presented.
I'd move on that too, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion to approve the budget as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion seconded. Questions or discussion on motion to approve?
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Larry, have you had an opportunity to review the recycling program as far as the expenses and the cost versus how we were doing in comparison to last year or the year before?
Mr. Chair, I have not had an opportunity to look at the entire process because we basically started with the recycling program in whole in September. And so the numbers are too soon. I have a preliminary some numbers, but it's pretty close where it's projected at. I do know we will need to continue to watch the recycling program and maybe make some tweaks. I think there's some concerns about what's going on in some of the multi-unit housing places and rural areas. But right now, I've asked Gary Gear, the director, just to give it some time. Let's monitor it. Let's try to get as much data. I asked him to work with the provider to make sure we're doing everything we need to do.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I would call the question. All in favor of motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion is carried, and we are adjourned.
That's it, huh?
Raleigh, you take care of yourself.